You sure about that? Roll the intro. Hello, I am your host, Zachary Belore. We're back in the Lion's Den. This is exactly the video I didn't want to make throughout most of this season. But before getting into the negatives of this game, and trust me, there are a lot of them, I want to talk about the positives, the few that there are. Offense greatly did improve from last week versus the Chiefs. I said in that video that if the Goff was a little off, if he kept playing like that versus other teams that offenses were turned on, they wouldn't be able to win. Goff improved in this game, 28 of 35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, but generally speaking, way better game from Goff. Montgomery was even more efficient. I talked about that in my last episode. He had 4.2 yards a carry in this previous game, and he still got a touchdown like he did versus the Chiefs. So improvement generally on the offense. They did have a red zone fumble again, which is concerning. You guys need to stop doing that. This time it wasn't from a wide receiver, though. It was from Montgomery. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God, still electric. I do think that I was a little bit wrong in saying that he wasn't a number one. I wish they had a better two. I think Amon-Ra could genuinely be the number one. I think you can run an offense through him. Josh Reynolds had 2 touchdowns, 66 yards. I saw a couple of fans complaining on social media that he wasn't doing enough. I also saw people complaining about Khalif Raymond. Raymond didn't have a great game either, but he has never been a high-volume guy. I don't know why Lions fans would expect him to play better now when he hasn't throughout most of his career. He's pretty much just a 2 or 3 play per game type player. It's just deep shots and stuff where you can get him wide open in open space. But really, he's never been a true weapon in an offense that you can rely on play after play after play. So why would he become one now? I'm not quite sure. Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, legitimate could be a number one tight end in an offense. There's always questions with rookies whether or not they can actually be reliable at the top of a depth chart and not just depth pieces. Sam Laporta, I think, has shown enough through these first 2 games that he could be the number one tight end moving forward. So I like to see that. And one of the few good things I will say on defense is that Alex Anzalone, shaky in coverage, yes, but run support, he has been playing very well the first 2 weeks. I called him out last episode as playing pretty well in the first half. He has the only sack on the team so far, which we'll talk about in a second. But good job from him to get into the backfield. I like to see that. Keep it up. Now, time to complain. And I have a lot to complain about. We'll start with a couple of complaints I have on offense before I really dig into whatever the hell this defense is supposed to be. Jahmyr Gibbs, very shaky. Didn't do a lot with his carries. Blocking could be an issue. I still think that he has a couple of vision problems that need to work out. He looked really good in week 1, not so good this week. Maybe it's just a down week. Maybe he'll bounce back. He is still, very young in his career, but he needs to improve on that big time. Obviously, the fumble can't happen in the pick, but those aren't even the biggest problems within this game, because you score 31 points, and you should have a pretty decent shot to win a game. Doesn't really matter who you're playing, but when you're playing the Lions, that's when you are the Lions and you have your defense, 31 points is not enough, because the defense still is absolutely atrocious. Aaron Glenn needs to be fired last season. He's been the defensive coordinator since 2021. And you can argue that, yeah, he didn't have a lot of pieces on his defense those first 2 seasons. But I could also argue that his play calling and his scheming is awful. They have not improved whatsoever in that department. Their front line, which was supposed to be really good, their front 8 is alright, but their secondary is still atrocious despite really putting in some capital investment in that group. There's only been 1 sack, like I said earlier. Aiden Hutchinson has still played well, but he hasn't been able to get to the quarterback. Some of that is due to holding. Some of that is just due to just being slightly late. But they're not getting any other pressure, really. It's all relied on one person, and when that happens, all you have to do is double and triple team him, and then you've pretty much, figured out their defense. The tackle leader was C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the safety. You never want... Most of the time, you don't want your safety to be your number 1 tackle leader, because that means that they're getting into the secondary quite often. And especially with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, yeah, he plays up in the box a little bit, but still, you don't want your safety to be the number 1 leading tackler on your team most of the time. No interceptions off of Geno Smith. They made Smith look like an all-star in this game, when last week he looked like New York Jets Geno Smith against the goddamn Rams. The secondary is atrocious. They really did not do anything in this game. There's not even a lot of big plays that I can point to that said, well, they're even tight in coverage. It really was just bad all the way around. One other positive I will say that I forgot to mention earlier, Riley Patterson, the kicker, did make a pressure kick to get them into overtime. But the game never should have went to overtime in the first place, because you have the ball near the 50-yard line with 3 timeouts and a minute left in the game, and they played for the field goal. Dan Campbell still does not know when to be aggressive and when to be conservative, and I talked about this in my preview episode before the season even started, and last week about his going for it at your own 17, but then not going for it later on in the game, in the 4th quarter, in the Chiefs' territory. You have to be smarter with when you decide to be aggressive and when you be conservative. And you cannot be conservative in the NFL late in games in 2023, and Dan Campbell has consistently done that. Time and time and time again since he's been the head coach. He is too conservative late in the game, and that's what, you played for the field goal. Congratulations, you got to overtime. I don't think I've ever seen the Lions win an overtime game since I've been watching them. And if I have, it's only been like 2 or 3 ever in the 20 years that I've been alive. All the time when they get to overtime, that is their death sentence, because their defense just cannot stop them. If they would have gotten the ball first, maybe there's a chance that they go down the field and score a touchdown. I kind of doubt it, but there's at least a chance. When you lose that coin toss and you just allow the Seahawks to march right down the field and score a touchdown, you deserve to lose. Don't give me that crap about, overtime rules are stupid and they should be able to get the ball next. No, play team defense. They have not been able to do that for years now, and they deserved to lose this game. Aaron Glenn needs to be fired last season. Get it together. Play better defense. The offense wasn't even the problem today. Usually I don't love to heap praise on Jared Goff because he's not a bad quarterback, but he's not one that can lead a team by himself. He was not the problem today. It was that defense. And I'm sick and tired of saying that every single year since I've been watching the Lions, except for like 2 years. One of them in 2014 and one of them maybe 2011, maybe 2012, somewhere around there, the same time period. They have not had a good defense since Jim Caldwell left. Fix your defense. It's not that hard. And looking beyond this game, looking into the season as a whole, yes, it's an early game in the season. It shouldn't really matter as much. But the Seattle Seahawks are one of those teams that's going to be a fringe playoff team. The Lions are in that same category, at least you would hope. So they're likely going to be battling for the 7th seed, just like they did last year. And you know what happened last year? They lost an early season game to the Seahawks in Detroit in shootout fashion. got better as the year went along, but couldn't capitalize in Carolina, and because the Seahawks beat the Rams in the last week of the season, they lost out on their potential playoff spot. The same thing might happen this year. The Seahawks and Lions likely going to be competing for the 7th seed late in the season, and now you've just given them the advantage that they need. Yes, it's not a division loss, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that they can still win the division, or at least be very competitive in it. But you like to be able to win that game. This is the type of game that I want them to be able to win. The Chiefs game last week, I expected them to lose because the Chiefs are just a better team. The Seahawks, on paper, are around the same, you would expect to be around the same record as the Lions. And those are the types of games that you need to be able to win, and you need to be able to prove to me that you are a different team. Because the whole talk of the week, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we're not the same old Lions, we're better. No, you're not. You're the same team that you have been since I've been watching. And speaking of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the injuries really took a toll in this game. He could be out potentially for the season. There hasn't been official word yet, but even Dan Campbell said it's likely out for a very long time. David Montgomery's out, and he's probably going to be out for a few weeks. James Houston has a ankle injury, and he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. 2 offensive linemen, he's going to be out for some length of time, and you still have Emmanuel Mosley, who hasn't come back, who apparently has suffered a setback in his injury recovery. Good luck versus the Falcons. They just beat the Packers in a very exciting game that I just watched. They're 2-0. Their run game has been really exciting to watch with Bijan Robinson and Desmond Ridder having the ability to scramble, and Tyler Algier. They don't have a fantastic passing game, but they're working on it. Good luck versus the Falcons. Maybe that front 8 of the Lions can hold the Falcons' run game, and if they do that, then maybe they'll be able to contain their passing attack. Maybe. But they have not proved to me that they can do that yet. I'm mad. I don't know if you can tell. This is really the type of game that the Lions need to prove that they can win, and they haven't done that. And it's just really disappointing that it's the same team that they've always been. And I told you all that, and none of you listened. Leave your thoughts on what you thought in the comments down below of this game and what you expect from the Lions next week versus the Falcons. I'm expecting a loss. Prove to me that I'm expecting something that I should be expecting better things. But right now, I'm at a low in terms of my faith in this team. Just be better.